Hello, planet Earth. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We're at IDK, my BFF Jill 730.
My BFF Jill 730.
I'm Preston L. Young, wishing you warm salutations and congratulations as always. You've made your way to the Buffyngton Post.
Enter all ye who seek knowledge.
Today it's time for the Buffyngton Post recap and review for Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 11, Giles, Issue number 2, it's Girl Blue, Part 2. We of course have two covers this month. We've got the traditional cover, which I really like, by Steve Morris. Steve Morris, like, by the way, I don't give him enough credit. The Steve Morris covers are pretty gorgeous. They're always looking good. And this is very much in the vein of Season 11. It looks very much like the style that was in the Buffy proper Season 11 covers, and I really like this one. It's quite gorgeous. I have nothing bad to say about this one. And then we have Ariel. It's either it's Ariel Jovellanos or Jovellanos or Jovianos? I'm really not sure, but either way, it's not my favorite. It's actually quite reminiscent of the art from Buffy the High School years. It looks very anime-y, so it's like, nah, I'm not here for it, but it's a cover. And it does actually include, okay, so in Season 11, they got into this thing where they would show you, like, little, like, mini scenes that don't actually appear in the Buffy Season 11 comics, but they kind of build out the world. And what they've done here is they have actually included, like, actual dialogue from the comic, which I really appreciate, even though I'm not a big fan of the art style, because again, like, with Giles' like super rosy cheeks and the lines on his face, it just looks super anime to me, and I'm just, like, honestly, I'm not an anime fan. I like a few anime, but as a genre, it's just not my style, so womp womp. And I realize that right now a lot of you are yelling at me because I'm not saying manga or manga or however you say it, but, like, I'm also, as I've said before, like, with Buffy the High School years, I'm just not into manga. Like, sue me, whatever, I don't care. Like, that's just not my flavor of art. You know what I mean? Like, I like Sailor Moon back in the day, but I'm not, like, hanging on to it like a white on my ass, you know what I'm saying? But, of course, before we get into this...
Previously,
Giles died and was resurrected into this teenage body. He's like roughly 13 or 14 years old, question mark. With all of the hoopla around the magical, like, registration, sort of, like with all of the magical beings being put into these safe zones that are not internment camps, the Scoobies decided to hide Giles away due to the fact that he is technically like a magical being, because, like, he was resurrected by magic and he lives in this, you know, preteen body. It's a whole thing. They sent him to high school, and they sent him to this charter school for gifted youngsters, as it were, not only to hide him away, but also to investigate some supernatural stuff. So the supernatural stuff has to do with the smell of peaches in the air, the students being kind of lethargic and weird, some tentacly monster that appears to have grabbed Giles' university friend, who happens to be teaching at this charter school. It's a whole thing. He met this chick named Rue, who turned out to be a vampire. Fun fact, Rue has this neat, like, tattoo on her wrist, which corresponds to a tattoo on the back of another character's neck, Sheffield. Not in the issue, spoiler alert. There's, like, this shady principal, there's this weird Toxin Riddles teacher's aide who is kind of immune to the brain drain situation for some reason that we really don't know. Anyway, Giles is under the guise of, he has a new identity. His name is Ralph Columbo, which is lame, and he has decided to team up with Rue, who turned out to be a vampire, by the way, and they are going to get to the bottom of the situation that is plaguing the school.
Dun dun dun.
There's also this girl called Blue, and, like, the first two issues are called Girl Blue, parts 1 and 2, but we don't know shit about her.
That's what you need to know, and so without further ado, let's jump into Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 11, Giles Season 11, Issue number 2, it's Girl Blue, Part 2. Here we go.
Oh, I'm so pleased.
Every day's another lesson, and my head's in the world. If I make a wrong decision, it's not the end of the world. I will reach my destination. Make mistakes from A to Z. With each mistake, there's a new lesson. I can be anything. the intelligence of a grown man trapped inside of a young brain. He's kinda on the short side, but stands tall when you throw the ball. That's why I'm hanging with the smart guy, aka Mr. Know-It-All.
Okay, our issue opens up with Giles walking through the halls of this legend high school, this charter school that he's going to, and he has a serious deja vu, and in this sense of deja vu, he kind of feels, it's weird, he sees, or like kind of appears to see through this deja vu feeling, like a kind of demonic version of himself, and he's like, how am I not myself? The old I Heart Huckabee's question.
How am I not myself?
Rue comes along and kind of startles him out of his feeling of deja vu, and she's like, hey dude, we need to work on a plan to get to the bottom of the situation, etc. So Giles talks about the fact that it seems like the cafeteria is like brain drain, like ground zero, but he couldn't see a breach in reality or anything, so maybe this magic situation that's draining all of the students' brains and making them all like lethargic and whatever is actually like moving through the walls, but they need to find like a point of origin so that they can find out what the what is, and then like whoop-de-doo, there are like an earthquake situation, and apparently like earthquakes are kind of like happening around here all the time, and also there are these like dog barks going on, so there's some dogs barking for some reason or another. Again, unclear, mysterious, blah blah. So Rupert, or Ralph Columbo, goes one way, Rue goes another way. They're going to investigate the situation, but then Rupert gets pulled aside by Addison, his friend from university. They talk back and forth about how Giles pulled this whole Benjamin Button situation. It turns out that Addison had actually, like, played with the lottery and lost his love and all this extra. He ended up coming to the United States and he got this like job at this charter school, and everything was on the up and up for a while. So it stopped being on the up and up when the rains happened, and like for some reason this rain brought about this weirdness with all the students. It made them all lethargic. Teachers started leaving and disappearing, as well as that student Truman from the last issue disappeared. Whatever, it smells like peaches all the time, and Addison actually hates peaches, but he like randomly craves them also. And so it's super weird, like why are you craving peaches if you don't like peaches? And he made this whole stink about how you don't like peaches. And anyway, he wants to take a selfie with Giles, okay? And we see what Giles doesn't see, which is that in the selfie, he looks all demonic like the deja vu version of Rupert, okay? Rue and Giles had agreed to meet back up in the school's library after they had kind of done their investigating separately. Now, when Giles gets to the library, wouldn't you know, it's all locked up. So it turns out that all of the books had been gotten rid of by Principal Boak, who again is like super kind of shady, maybe. And she had this whole like digital center built for them, rather than them having like these library books, because you know we're in the 21st century, etc. But there's this crazy, wild, angry dog in there, and it attacks them, and then it jumps through the window and doesn't attack them at all, which is weird. Anyway, Giles and Rue are still doing this flirty back and forth, and they decide to go on a date, but she says, only if you bring me a corsage, which, okay, whatever. Rupert and Rue just picked up on that, actually. They decide to investigate the principal, who of course had the library done away with, and they turn the lights off, and when they turn the lights back on, Rue has all tied her up in her chair and blindfolded her, and they interrogate her on the situation. Now it turns out that she's not like mystical, magical shady, she's just kind of like corporate shady. She basically is letting these like corporation guys take over the school because it's going to be a great big payday for her, and she's going to go retire in an exotic location. So even though she's not necessarily a good guy, she's not behind the mystical, magical bullshit at the bottom of the situation. Rue and Rupert talk about, you know, the fact that the principal's not magic shady, she's just regular person shady. And they get to talk more and more, and Rupert asks her why she's watching Blue, this girl in question that these things are like named after, like it's called Girl Blue. She doesn't really want to spill the beans on what exactly that she's doing here, and whatever, they agree to disagree, etc. And then Giles and Rue are both kind of thinking about one another and the situation at hand, and basically they both have, you know, feelings for each other, which is weird because she's a 200-year-old plus vampire, we found out. Or, well, she says give or take 200 years. Or she says 200 years, give or take, blah, blah, blah. And so, like, whatever, she's much older than Giles, it turns out, which goes back to the, we'll get into it. But, yeah, like, they like each other, etc. So when Rupert was talking to Addison, Addison told him that the school was converted from an old factory, and that that factory had actually been built next to a landfill. And so this landfill, after the rains came down, became a sinkhole, and that's why the foundation is shifting and it seems like they're having earthquakes all the time. It's because, like, the ground underneath them is not stable. So anyway, Rupert goes to investigate the sinkhole, and wouldn't you know, he tries to climb down and ends up falling through into it. So after Rupert falls through the sinkhole, he's wandering around and he finds this demon down there. Shock and awe. And it turns out that this is the demon that keeps calling Giles mother, that we haven't seen, with all the tentacles. And they actually know one another from the past. And the reason that he's calling Rupert mother is because he is responsible for his creation, sort of. So this demon seed basically reminds Rupert that they had fought before, that he was like this red dragon crazy demon guy that Giles had banished back to hell from Earth with this magic wand-a-majigger. Now it turns out that Rupert's blood was spilled in the banishment, and that is what merged with Seed to allow for him to live on our plane of existence again. Now he says that perhaps the reason that his blood allowed him to live is that maybe Giles is a demon, which is crazy, but it's not without merit, because we do know that the Fairweather line, Giles's matrilineal or patrilineal line, but on his grandmother's side, the Fairweathers are kind of like mystically adept, like they're just kind of naturally good at magic, and so that might be a whole thing. So what Seed has done is basically built this magical machine that makes everybody just kind of lethargic and lackadaisical, and it basically like drains all of the intellect out of you so that we have a really dumb populace. And basically the school is ground zero for his experiment. He wants to use this prototype so that he can sell it and mass produce it, because what's better than humans not being around? Humans who don't care that they're around, that can just be kind of like puppetized by demons or powerful humans or the government, or like, you know, insert Trump joke here because he jokes about Twitter being sad, and it's a whole thing. And he reveals that Rue is not all that she seems. She is the one who has gotten rid of at least one of these teachers, and definitely Truman. And so, Rupert, you better watch your back, is what this demon is saying, okay? So this demon has basically created this dumb bomb, as he calls it, and yeah, he wants to just suck all the intellect out of people so that they can be easily controlled, etc. Giles doesn't like that, but Seed isn't gonna deal with its mother any more than it has to, and it, like, tentacly grabs Rupert. So Rupert casts a spell on Seed to freeze him temporarily, and then he literally throws a wrench into the dumb bomb, which is sucking all the intellect out of people, and of course, like, throwing a monkey wrenches in his plan, etc. Seed is pissed. It's about to totally murder Rupert, but then of course Rue shows up to rescue Giles. The demon fights back against Rue by throwing some fire, and if you haven't been reading or watching the Buffyverse, by the way, fire and vampires don't mix. And keep in mind that Seed is actually addicted to peaches, and so Rupert throws a peach into this fire and Seed dives in after it. So dumb. And then Rue knocks Giles the fuck out. So when Rupert wakes up, he's with Rue, but he's all tied up. And he asks about what happened to Truman, and basically Truman was a guy who asked too many questions that she couldn't answer, etc, etc. And she's got him all tied up just to make sure that he hasn't been co-opted, that he hasn't, like, lost his faculties and given them over to the demon like so many others have already, okay? Doesn't seem like Rupert's crazy, and so Rue and he, like, talk back and forth, and they're super flirty. And she agrees to talk to him more after she takes him back to her place, but she's gonna keep him, like, tied up, and so she has to carry him home. And that's where we end the issue. Alright, so last month I was not impressed with the Giles book. It was a little anticlimactic / like too climactic because nothing really made sense. But I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed going through and reading this. It was a lot of fun, it was exciting, and they introduced this idea that, you know, Rue is 200 years old, give or take. And so, like, that takes away the whole, like, creepiness about Giles being attracted to this teenage girl. Interesting fact, because she's 200 years old, that explains why she wears her hoodie even outside, because, like, the new day vampires that are all shape-shifting and they can turn into fog and mist and all the extra, they are kind of immune to sunlight, and so, like, that's why she's wearing the hoodie all the time. Super cool. Okay, cool. And so, also, like, super cool that Giles isn't this old man creeping on this, like, 16-year-old girl, whatever. And so I really did enjoy this issue. I enjoyed this issue a lot more than I was expecting to. I picked it up and I was kind of like, oh gosh, it's so weird. It's all over the place. It's so weird. What am I going to think? But I enjoyed the reading of this. The banter between Rue and Rupert is really fun and fresh. And the story, like the storytelling, even though I will say the storytelling is not entirely clear, it's better in this one. Again, I don't like the mixtape thing. I feel like Joss is trying to be entirely too hip. I feel like he's just trying to prove, like, how cool he is or what the heck ever. And I don't like the mixtape thing. I find it completely distracting. I think it's honestly kind of fucking dumb. But what we've got going on in this issue, like, this whole issue is a lot of fun. I love when they tie up Principal Boak and interrogate her, but she's blindfolded so she doesn't really know who's got her. Really good stuff. And she's like, look, I'm an asshole. I don't even have a soul. I'm a terrible human being, so I'm an open book. Just ask me. I think that is really fun. The stuff with Addison and the mystery of, like, how Seed is, like, in them and all this extra, like, that's really cool. The idea that the school is built on a landfill, I think that's really interesting because it's like the school was initially this factory with all this, like, radiation stuff going on in it. And it was literally, like, the school has no foundation. Like, it's foundationless. It's not really built on anything. The whole school is really a lie, and it's just a cash grab for people like Principal Boak and the other investors. And I really like that idea. I like the kind of story there. I think it's very poignant for what we're doing, or for what we're going through in the real world. It's very in the season 11 vein of being very topical and current eventsy, and that's really interesting. I'm not really sure what's going on with this deja vu situation with, like, Giles and, like, the demon version of Giles, but I'm sure we'll get there eventually, and I'm not really worried about that. One thing that we're missing from this is Blue. It's called Girl Blue, and all we really know about Blue is she's this silent waif, and Rue is watching out, like, after her. So I don't really know what the deal is with Blue, but I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about Blue. I'm not worried about Mrs. Vega. I'm sure, like, based on issue 2, Like, issue number 1, I was just like, what are we doing? What is actually going on? I have no idea. And issue number 2 made me feel like we're getting somewhere. And so I have no question that we will get answers about Vega, that we will get answers about Blue. And I'm honestly, like, I'm in it now. I'm here for the ride. I really like the idea that that there's more profit in, like, rather than selling off the intelligence. It's not like he's siphoning the intelligence and going to sell that off. He's actually just selling the machine that siphons off the intelligence, because a complacent populace is easier to control. Like, obviously that, like, comes with complacency. I really like that. It's so smart, and it's very Buffy. It's very Buffy. The idea that you've got this demon who doesn't just want to, like, go out and kill people. He wants to make a buck, and he wants to help other people to control humans, and, you know, God knows what other kind of beings can have their intelligence sucked out. It appears right now that it's only humans, and so, like, that's a thing. And the thing is, we don't know if Giles has not been affected. Like, Seed had Rupert all up in its tentacles, just like it had Addison all up in its tentacles, and clearly something went wrong with Seed. And so Rue, even though she's a vampire and she has no soul, which is a whole thing, she's suspicious of Giles because this is happening to everyone else. Why wouldn't it happen to him? And so all of, like, everything in this book is starting to make so much fucking sense, and I like when things make sense in the Buffyverse. I like when things make sense in general, but especially when it's the Buffyverse, because, like, this is what I do, come and talk about it, and I really don't like having to, like, shit on the Buffyverse. Angel Season 11 was really hard for me. Like, it's terrible, and I don't like coming on here and saying, oh, well, this is a bunch of bullshit, and now I don't have to, because this is genuinely interesting. And again, like, Giles, to his credit, he talks about the fact, like, she's a monster, she doesn't have a soul, why am I so attracted to her? Oh wait, it's because I'm a teenager, etc., etc. It's so good. It's not great, but it's so much better than what I thought we were going to get, that it turns out to be really good. So, like, take that with all the salt you want, and, like, some white pepper too. But yeah, Seed, I don't know, I don't think he died in the fire or anything, because clearly, like, the opening of the book itself in issue 1 was a flash forward, and this thing was still calling him Mother, so, like, Seed is still out there. And I like that Giles is kind of responsible for this demon being. It's kind of what I thought, but not quite. I knew that he was going to be responsible for it in some way or another, because, hello, it keeps calling him Mother. But it's not thermogenesis, but he did in fact create it with his own blood, which is a thing. And I like that we're questioning how much of Giles's genetic heritage is wrapped up in magic, because, you know, we have Edna, we have Sophronia and Lavinia, we have his father, who, by the way, doesn't have a name, and then we have Giles, and all of these people are magically inclined, and 3 of them are Watchers, and so, like, that's really interesting, and I really hope that we go somewhere with that, with Giles and the Fairweather's connection to magic through their lineage. I'm hoping that we go somewhere greater with that within the larger verse, but it's really, like, maybe not even a factor here. And so I really did enjoy, I really enjoyed not just the book, but I enjoyed the reading of the book. I thought it was fun, I thought it was flip, I thought it was funny, I thought it was poignant. And it's a, like, great improvement over issue 1. And so Giles Season 11 issue number 2 is like rock'em sock'em, and it's totally worth your time if you just care about the Buffyverse and are interested in, you know, what's going on with Kid Giles. You know, I made a whole stink about Kid Giles and how I wanted more Kid Giles, Kid Giles, Kid Giles. And here we've got him. And apparently, like, even though he looks to be about 15 or 16, like, honestly, they're saying his balls haven't even dropped, so maybe he's like 12 or 13 still, but they've drawn him in a way that does not, and I don't know. I'm still on the fence about Giles's age and exactly how old he is, especially since Rebecca Isaacs is clearly drawing him as a, like, 13-year-old, 14-year-old max. So It's like, that's a whole thing, but if that's my biggest complaint about this book, then we're good here. But anyway, Planet Earth, let me know what you thought of Giles Season 11, Issue number 2 in the comment section down below. Do you care that we didn't get any more Mrs. Vega? Did you care that we didn't get any actual Blue, who is the title of the story? Do you like the relationship with Rue and Rupert? Like, honestly, I'm on the fence about it. I feel like he's gonna have to kill her, or maybe he'll let her go. I will say that I'm in love with the cover for next month's issue. Next month's issue cover is gorgeous. I love it. And again, it makes me think that perhaps Rue and Blue are in fact related. I think she's a blood relative of Blue, especially given the fact that that Rue is around 200-ish years old, which is really cool. I like that. And next month we're definitely going to get more into Rue and her backstory just based on the cover of this book. And I like that. It seems like Rue like had a sister, and maybe Blue is one of her sister's descendants. And I'm really interested in that. And Sheffield, we'll get back to Sheffield because again, we didn't deal with the tattoo on her wrist and the tattoo on the back of his neck. I think they're all related, and I would be really interested to see if that is or is not the case. But anyway, Planet Earth, that's pretty much all I've got for you guys today. I hope you're having a great 2018 so far, everybody. I'm Preston L. Young, and you can come right back here to the Buffyngton Post anytime for Buffy the Vampire Slayer reviews, Giles Season 11 reviews, Buffy vs. discussions on the other Slayers, Angel and Faith reviews. Check out my Frey review. I did Frey this past week, so check out Frey. I spent a lot of time on it. It was a whole mess, and it's definitely worth checking out, the book itself and my video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and as always, question. And please, Planet Earth, if you've made it to this point of the video, subscribe and hit that notification button, that bell, like hit that notification. It'll let you know when I've uploaded, because with the new, like, weird YouTube algorithm, I might just get lost in your YouTube shuffle. And if you care about the current Buffyverse that we're all in-ish, then hit that bell so you can keep up with the rest of us, and I can give you the skinny on everything, and you'll be 5 by 5 with all of us.
You are invited.
Anyway, have yourself a great day today, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Moving to the country, I'm gonna eat a lot of peaches. Moving to the country, I'm gonna eat a lot of peaches. Moving to the country, gonna eat a lot of peaches. Moving to the country, gonna eat a lot of peaches. I took a little nap with a loose old twist, squished a rotten peach in my fist, and dreamed about you, woman. I poke my finger down inside, make a little room for an ant to hide. Nature's candy in my hand, or can, or pie.
Joe? 730.
So what this demon seed guy has done is basically he's built this kind of like magical machine that he's using to drain the intellect out of people. And it's actually like super profitable for him because like he can sell it to people. He can make money off of this machine that basically makes everybody dumb. It makes everybody kind of lackadaisical and... is that a word?